Today we're going to be looking at a game between Isaak Birbrager and Mikhail. And I came across this game as part of Tal's book called The Life and Games of Mikhail. I think it's game number 4 for those who have the book. I haven't actually analyzed it yet. I sped through it once, like in about a 1 to 2 minute time period to see if there looked to be any kind of interesting opportunities to talk about. So I'm going to pause around move. I think it was around 22, and I'll just quickly walk us through it to get there. So Tal is playing the black side, and I'm hiding the moves so we don't get don't get any spoilers over here. And I think this is the Benoni. Not a opening that I play, but I am tangentially aware of it. So one thing that I wanted to draw attention to in this game that is a very good reminder for us, us being basically players who aren't grandmasters, is the idea of counterattack and not reacting immediately to what your enemy's doing. So we're just about there. I'm just kind of getting us there. I think it was, around 22. So I haven't actually had too many crazy decision points in this game. This is sort of forced, so capture that back. Okay, we're at move 20. 21. So right here is where I wanted to draw attention. So obviously Black's knight, in this case Tal, his knight is being attacked. And I think a lot of players would look at this and go like, well, I guess I have to, move it back. But the question I would pose is look for a counterattack instead of immediately reacting to the situation. So for me, if I'm keeping that idea in mind, here's like a check opportunity, for example, that I see. Is there any other counterattacks? That looks to be about the strongest one that I can see. And it looks like that's the one that was played. And so now obviously white has to react to this. He's not going to put a piece here because he'd just be hanging it. So he's probably going to move his king. And so now it's another opportunity though to go, okay, well, can we continue this idea of counterattack? So again, rather than just reacting, what else can we do in this game? And I think a lot of the time counterattacks are driven by honestly just observing what pieces are unprotected and whether the king has an opportunity to be checked. So again, we're back to like the idea of checks and captures, or the threat of checks and captures. So, this is one move, but I don't see this because we've got 2 ways that white can recapture here. But what else do we have? This piece is undefended. This piece is undefended. This pawn is weak. But obviously, since we have a piece that's hanging, we probably need to prioritize something that's of equal or greater value. So these 2 rooks would be an idea. So in that case, we could do this to threaten to capture it. So that would require white to react to that situation. And it turns out that's exactly what Tal played. So white responds by moving this rook out of the way. And I guess I don't have this game memorized either. I briefly looked at it, as I mentioned, so I'm trying to think, okay, is there more to the counterattacks? I don't recall. Let's see. It would be nice to be able to play this with the pinned pawn, but the knight is there, so that kind of ruins that idea. Is there anything else? I'm also looking at perhaps a sack here, like take, with some sort of idea of maybe pushing this pawn and then moving the queen, for example. Let's see, what did Tal do here? Okay, so he didn't go for that, but it's still piece maneuvering. So he's willing to give up his knight with what idea? It must be to attack this weak pawn. So perhaps on the next move, he'll put that king in check, and then the king can't go anywhere, so the rook would have to block. And if the rook blocks, can Tal do anything? Can't take the knight because it's protected by the bishop. It's an interesting position here. So let's see, what does Tal do? Or rather, I guess in this case, white. He's probably not going to take the knight. He's probably going to protect this pawn somehow. Maybe. I see. So he's basically saying, hey, you can take the pawn. I'm blocking the check. So if you take, I take. And it's kind of like, playing chicken and chess here. It's white thinks they're going to be better off. Black thinks they can somehow convert this into a winning position. So black takes the pawn. And here we have basically an intermezzo of sorts attacking the queen. So this queen is starting to feel pretty trapped. Not entirely, but getting closer. So the safe squares would be here and here. So again, the same rule applies though. Is there any additional counterattack before we react? But now basically Tal has two hanging pieces. We've got the queen hanging and the knight hanging. And at the moment, Tal is only up a pawn. So he's got to be pretty careful here. I'm not sure I see a great square here. Perhaps I would move it back here, because if you put it here, then you're setting yourself up for a discovered attack. So let's see, what does Tal do? He goes ahead and does the thing I wouldn't do. Well, that's what makes him great. All right, so this would be a nice attack, but this rook is here. So what does white do? An additional attack on the queen, further tightening the net a little bit, and we've got basically a double attack. I'm still considering this, like, can you sack your queen in any way and make this work? I don't think so. So if take, knight could just come back. That doesn't seem very good. It does look, though, if we look at the evaluation meter down here, it does look like Tal is going to make a mistake here, but then somehow salvage the game anyway. So that's something to consider. All right. So he chooses this square, and if we answer the question why, well, it's a safe square at the moment, so he's not losing his queen. He's pinning this rook and attacking this knight, so we've got or white has to consider keeping this bishop on the diagonal to protect this. So basically, this piece is sort of pinned at it's not pinned, but it's kind of, it's confined to basically one of these three squares. and this rook is locked in place at the moment. So if I am black, again, I'm still like, I gotta think about how do I deal with this. One option is you take the pawn, and that eliminates that threat. Certainly something to consider. But on the next move, if white was given a free move right now, one other thing I'm looking at is like moves like this. Because that would then restrict the queen to the corner over here, I think. At least there's still an escape hatch, but not too much. We're getting pretty tight. So yeah, I guess it's white's turn to play. So white is probably going to take this at this point. Either that or continue with the attacks. Actually, if I was in white's position right now, I'd probably play this. So they're going for more of a repeat here because we've done this before. So I wonder he's perhaps offering a three repeat. Okay, so Tall takes that pawn to remove that liability that was attacking his knight. And in exchange, he's basically sacking his queen. So obviously, it's going to probably play out like this and then recapture, pinning the rook. But is that enough? That seems pretty insane. Can I see a path forward? Because right now, as we see in the evaluation meter, this looks like a blunder. So knight takes, bishop takes. And this is totally a one game for the white side at the moment. So the question is, how does this end up becoming a win for black again? Clearly, white will make a blunder in the next couple moves. Okay, so one thought I have here is, excuse me, the number of pieces that are on the board now for black are starting to thin out a little bit. Like these bishops are fundamental to this attack. So he's not going to want to trade them off. He's probably going to want to figure out, at least I would want to figure out how to get some of the rooks in play, right? Another thing to consider is this passed pawn is perhaps fundamental to victory. If we can convert that, then that material we just sacrificed will be worth it. So white plays. Okay, so h4. Trying to figure out why did white play that? Because it weakened this square, allowing the knight to go here, but it strengthened support for this square, allowing things like this to stop the infiltration of rooks and things. So it's kind of a double-edged move, unless I'm missing something. Okay. So the most tempting move, obviously, is this check here, perhaps, because the rook is pinned anyway. So perhaps a check, the king moves here, the only legal square, and then you lift the rook because now this area is blocked by the knight, so the rook can't stop the black rook going over here to threaten to capture this. Something like that looks like a decent plan. Okay, so Tall decided to support this pawn. So it looks like the idea is to try to figure out, can I promote this thing? So does he have enough firepower to promote it? The one thing I'm looking at is if this is what he's banking on, and I'm white, And currently white is up, what is that, about 4 points? White could afford to, frankly, like just do an exchange sacrifice and still be up 2 points. So if this pawn is that threatening, oh, but the other thing is we have a pinned rook here, so you're gonna that's another exchange down the exchange trade there. So basically, yeah, I guess at the moment white can't really afford to sacrifice that bishop on this pawn at any point because it would be an equal game if this trade happens and this trade happens. Okay, so white to play. And if I'm looking at white's pieces, I'm guessing they probably need to consider activating some more of them. So just some basic trade downs is what I would be going for. Um, yeah, maybe activating the rook. Um, Possibly this way actually, and with the ideas of, maybe moving this bishop around. Let's see, what does white choose? Okay, so he's going to just force the question right now. Are you gonna make this exchange or not? Um, that's okay. It's trying to simplify the position basically. Okay. And black decides to make that check, forking the bishop and the king. So one thing, so yeah, I can see why this is a blunder. And what's interesting is, I mean, granted, I don't know what the rating is of Isaac Birbrager, but odds are this is a another extremely strong opponent. So it's interesting to see a mistake like this made because, at first glance, you're like, well, obviously you've got two pieces that are theoretically protecting this, but in reality, you don't because, the rook is pinned. So let's see. King has to move. Here, I think, is the only legal move. And got it. So Tall decides to cash in on the exchange. The question I have is, why not? Oh, I see. Yeah, because now obviously the rook isn't pinned. So if you take now, then you'd still end up the exchange. But the problem is now there's too few pieces left on the board. And so Tall wants to minimize the number of trade-offs. And if you don't take the rook now, you're going to lose the opportunity to win back the exchange. So, okay, so king takes. So at this point, black, we have basically white is up 9 plus 3 is 12 versus 5 plus 5 is 10. So yeah, black is still down 2 points. So he's not going to be looking to make any additional exchanges that aren't immediately like winning. And of course, in Tall typical fashion, he does. Okay. So this is a pretty textbook example of exchanging material for, um, like initiative or attack. So queen recaptures, and now we've got the fork. Okay. So we've got a bishop and a rook, bishop and a rook. Yeah, so black is up one pawn after all those exchanges. So wait, let's take a look at that exchange one more time. Because we were just saying that right here at this moment, it didn't seem advantageous. Yeah, it didn't seem advantageous to make this exchange at first glance. But yeah, the tactic is what we have to like train ourselves to see better. So when all is said and done, we're we're basically going to end up trading off. We're going to be trading off like the queen and the bishop for the knight, the pawn, and this rook. So 5 plus 3 plus 1. So 9 for 12. Got it. So now Tal theoretically is in a 1 position. So he's up a pawn. And he's got the initiative with check here. And we have a kingside majority of 2-to-1 pawns here, whereas white has 2 islands of 2 pawns, 2 connected pawns. And this is probably white's most dangerous pawn, I would imagine, because if he ever gets a chance to do this push and you take, then now his other pawn can quickly promote. So that's probably the most dangerous aspect to watch out for. And it looks like the game actually ended right here. So apparently the white opponent agreed that this was a lost game. So hope you enjoyed this analysis. And I think the big takeaway to remember is always look for counterattacks before you react to the threats of your opponent.